Hi, welcome to my channel. This is Lynn from Curiosity Crochet. I welcome all my crochet rock stars. Today we are going to do a little something different. I came up with this cute design and we're gonna make the hat together today. So we're gonna make a brim and then this will be the top part of the hat. While I'm getting everything ready, I invite you guys to like and subscribe, and I invite you to check out all my other videos that I've posted. For right now, I mainly do hats, but I would like to branch out and do some other things. But I welcome anybody to my channel who's new, and I welcome back anybody who's watched my other videos. So today I'm using Premiere again. Surprise, surprise. This is Everyday. It's a 4-weight yarn. I'm using these pretty spring colors. Now, it doesn't work up real thick, but it'll be good for like the beginning of spring. End of winter, beginning of spring. But anyways, this is not a super heavy 4, and it's very soft, and it leaves it nice and flimsy almost. So, and I like that for spring hats. These skeins have 203 yards in them, and mine are lacking. For the brim, you don't need much. Like any brim you make, you don't need much, and I'm using this one for the brim. And I actually have 2 skeins of this in case this runs out. There's not much missing out of this, but you shouldn't need more than 1 full skein of anything you're using, because you don't have to use the same yarn as me. Like I always say, any weight yarn that you want to use is fine. Just I'm gonna let you know. So this one recommends a 5.5. I'm going to use a 5 for the brim on this one, and I'm actually going to use a 6 for the top part, because if you notice, this middle part of this pattern comes in a little bit, so I want to make sure the hat doesn't sit too tight on the head in those areas. So for whatever weight yarn you're going to use, just make sure you go like a step below for the brim and a step above for the top part of the hat. So yeah, I'm using a 5 and a 6 and 1 or 2 colors, whatever 2 colors you want. Now it's up to you. You could use multiple colors on this, but I think it's pretty enough that, and it works up nice enough that I don't need to keep changing colors. Plus this in between, there's a bunch of rows, so you'd have to detach and reattach the colors, and I want to be able to make this video for you guys. So it's totally up to you. If you want to use 2 colors on the top and 1 for the brim, I would suggest doing like the row of these in 1 color and then doing the other rows in another. But it's totally up to you. It's your hat, but I think the pattern on its own is pretty enough to hold itself, that it doesn't need a whole bunch of colors, because I tend to like to switch up colors too with patterns. But with this one, I'm going to go a little basic, and I'm actually going to make the hat with you guys this time. I'm not going to do it on a small scale. We're gonna work this hat up together. So let's get our hooks and our supplies. I suggest a tape measure, because I never give rows, especially because I tell everybody they can use whatever yarn they want. We're just going to measure to get to the size that we need it to be. So I suggest a tape measure, and as always, your scissors and your tapestry needle, and we'll get going on this. So I'm going to jump right into it. We're going to start with the brim. So this brim is going to be kind of simple. It's not a real hard brim that I chose to do with this, but I don't like doing just the norm all the time, so It's going to be a little bit different, and I think it's called the Alpine Stitch, but it looks real pretty. I made another hat with it that I'll make a video for in the future too, but it worked up so pretty for the brim that I think it'll go real good with this one. So that's what we're going to do. So for the top pattern, you just need multiples of 2. So this will be perfect for this brim, because with the Alpine Stitch, you need multiples of 2 also. So I want you to, with whatever yarn you're using, whether it be 4-weight or whatnot, because I don't know if you guys know, but not all 4-weights are the same. So even if you're using a different yarn than me and it's still a 4-weight, just chain a multiple of 2 that measures the diameter you need. If you haven't measured anybody's head and you're just making this hat with me, I always tell everybody between 20 to 22 inches is usually good enough. You can always make chains and then measure it around your head, because that always works, but make sure without stretching, you bring it around your head, don't stretch it out, and make sure it touches on each side, and then stretch it and see how much stretch you've got. So I always take my 2 fingers in between my head and where it stretches to, and if I can get my 2 fingers in there, then I know there's enough stretch in there. So that's what you're looking for. So make multiples of 2 in the diameter you need, and we'll meet back and we'll start on the brim. Okay, for mine, I chained 60. Now, the chain number always depends on what hook size you're using, what yarn you're using. So if you're using the same kind of yarn I'm using, 60 should be enough. If you're using a different 4-weight and you're using a different hook size, it's probably going to be a little different. 5-weight, 6-weights, all, 5-weight and 6-weight, you probably need less chains than I'm doing. So just make sure you check size wise. That's all but I can't, the way I record, I would do this and show you. Let me see if I can do this. But I just lay it out flat and I measure it from the tip to and see, this one comes to about 19 inches. And I measured it around my head too. So it just depends on how much stretch is in the yarn too. So you got to take all that into consideration when you're making these hats. So if there's a whole lot of stretch, 19 inches is probably plenty, because then you're going to get all kinds of stretch in it. And I don't know if you know this, but hats tend to stretch out a lot the more they're worn. So you want to make them a little tighter than you think needs to be, so that there's room for it to stretch out and it not be where they can't wear it anymore. So I think from now on, we're going to generally say 18 to 19 inches if it's a real stretchy yarn. If it's not a real stretchy yarn, or we're doing a pattern that doesn't have a whole lot of stretch, we'll do the 21, 22 inches. So once you get your multiples of 2 in your chains, then what we're going to do is we're going to follow the chain down. Let me get into camera here. We're going to follow it without twisting it. And I always like to just bring it down in my fingers. And we're going to go down to the first chain here. And we're going to slip stitch these together. Just like that. So now we have a big ring. Now the first thing we're going to do is very easy. Excuse me, I need to take a drink of water. Sorry about that, guys. First thing we're going to do is real easy. We're just going to double crochet ourselves around the entire ring. So we're gonna chain 2, because we're just using this as a builder, so we don't need it to be too high right here. And you can go in and just do it in the chains this way, but I'm gonna turn it over here and I'm going to use that back bump in the chains, because then it leaves a cleaner edge. And with hats, it just looks nicer at the bottom if you do this. If you don't know what I'm talking about, when you're looking at your chains from in front, this is what you see. If you turn it over, just flip it over, you've got this bump in the back. It's the third loop, basically. You've got this here, and that's what I'm going to work into. If you want to do it the other way, that's the way you're comfortable with, that's what I want you to do. Now this first one here, since we're using this as a builder, we still have to go in this. It's sometimes hard to find, but it's right here. You're going to find it right by the knot, by your slip knot, basically. So you're going to yarn over, and sometimes it's a little fiddly to get into this first one, but just kind of use your finger and pull it onto there, and then do your double crochet. Now the rest of them will be easy to see. So you're just going to go in and double crochet in each of these back loops, or in the regular chain, however you feel comfortable doing it. I want to show you, let me do a couple of these. I'm going to show you how nice the bottom turns out looking, especially on something like a hat where you're not putting a brim. But look, it looks like there's just a clean stitch at the bottom instead of it being like a gap at the bottom. Do you see that? It's so nice for hats, and I wasn't always doing it, and then the more I started doing this, the more I realized, yeah, I think I like that. Unless I do, because sometimes I do a row around the bottom, like of a corresponding color, just to give it a little added pop. So, like I said, it's totally up to you, but it does give a nice, clean, finished edge. So, go ahead and do that, whichever way you're doing it. Do your row of double crochet around, and we'll meet back up and go to the next step of this brim. Okay, when you come back up around, I just want to point this, like sometimes you might miss this last one because it looks so small, but the best way, I always tell everybody, make sure you count your stitches to make sure you have the number that, because you should have the same amount of stitches as you do chains, so it'll match up. And if you if you count them, then you'll know for sure if you've missed a stitch or not. So when you come back around, we're just gonna slip stitch into that first double crochet. Well, you're gonna try at least. And then for this next row, again, we're just gonna chain 2, because we're just using it as a builder. So now for this first row, we are going to yarn over, and in this first post here, we're gonna do a front post. So we're gonna do front post, back post all the way around. So for a front post, you go in through the front. So you go in the side and come back around it, pull up a loop, and finish your double crochet. Now for a back post, you yarn over and you come up from the back. So you're going in behind it and coming up and going around it. So that's the easiest way I can think of to remember, is for front post, you're going in through the front, and for a back post, you're coming up through the back. So every other one, you're going to do a front post, and then you're going to do a back post, alternating all the way around. So you're going to yarn over, and you're going to do a front post. So you're going to go in through the front and come around that stitch and finish your double crochet. And then next you're going to yarn over and come up through the back and go around that post and finish your double crochet for your back post. Okay, and you're just gonna alternate all the way around, front post, back post, front post, back post, all the way around till you get back to the beginning, and I'll meet back up with you. Okay, then when you come back around, you should end on a back post, because we had the multiples of 2, so it was front post, back post, so you'll end with a back, and then we're gonna slip stitch into that top of that first front post. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna chain 2. And for this row, so that was the first row of the repeat. This is the second row. Now we're going to start with a back post. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to come up from behind and do that back post around the front post. And then we're going to do a front post around the back post. So now that's our repeat. We're going to do back post, and then front post. Back post, and then front post. So then it's opposite. So it'll be kitty corner to each other, the ones that pop out. It'll be real pretty. So that's what we're going to repeat. And I want to show you guys, see how small this looks? But look how much stretch it gets. Like, this yarn really gives a lot of give. So if you are looking at it and going, oh my goodness, that looks so small, I guarantee you, if you have a lot of stretch, it's going to be totally fine. So anyways, that's what we're going to repeat. You're going to do one row where you start with the front post, back post, and then you're going to do one row where you start with the back post, front post. And you're just going to alternate that until you get it to the width that you want it to be. Now, if you like a skinnier band, don't do a whole lot of rows. If you like a wider band, do some extra rows. I want you to do it however you want for your hat. So let's get our bands done, and when you're all through, we'll meet back up and we'll start with the top part of the hat. So have fun, and we'll be back. Okay, when you get your brim to whatever width you want, I'm doing mine on the thinner side because this hat's going to have a lot of personality, and I want to be able to do, and there's like 4-row repeat, so I want to be able to get as much of that in as I can, but it's totally up to you. I'm just doing a nice skinny pretty band, and see how pretty that does turn out with that alpine stitch. I just think that makes for such a pretty brim. Another thing I like to do sometimes, especially if it is looking on the smaller side to me, is when I get to my width that I want it to be, I try it around my ears to see if it's big enough, and it totally is, and it's perfect. So that's just a little trick that I do. You don't have to do that, but if it fits around my head, I have a pretty average size head, then it'll fit around everybody else's head, unless they have a really small head or a really big head, which happens. But if I'm making it for a specific person, I either have them measure their head and give me the measurements, or if I can, I measure their head myself. So yeah. So when we get our band where we want it to be, we're gonna slip stitch into the top of that first stitch. And my little trick that I've showed, I come up, I pull this loop up a little bit, and then I come in from behind into that same stitch, and I put the loop on my hook, pull it tight, and then pull that loop through to the inside, so that now it's on the inside instead of it being on the outside, your little knot. So then you can pull it up and you can cut off here, because we're going to switch colors now. We're going to switch gears. So we can cut that off. And we're going to join our other color. And we can sew all these ends in it when we're all done. So let me find my end here. There you are. Ta-da! Okay, so we're also going to switch hooks. I just threw mine by accident. We're going to switch hooks and go to our bigger size hook. Now, I may or may not, I'll let you guys know, but a lot of times when I'm making, because I think I'm going to make this a little longer, it might be a little bit of a slouchy hat for me. You can make it however tall you want. So I'll give you the measurements now before we get going, because there is a 4-row repeat. I'm going to go through the 4 rows. If you'd like, you can write them down, because sometimes that's easier, so that you have the reference, or you can just replay the video so that you can remember. They're not hard rows or anything. It's just, I don't know how you guys are, but sometimes I have a hard time remembering the rows, just because I have learning disabilities, I'll be honest, and I have ADHD, so my memory is not the greatest. So whatever works for you is fine. But I'm just going to go through the 4 rows, and then I'm going to let you guys go. So the measurements are 6 to 7 inches is usually generally a small beanie. Between 7-8 inches is got a little bit of a slouch, a little bit of a poof at the back. And then 9 to 10 inches is pretty slouchy. So, and we're still going to close off too. So you got to take that into consideration with how slouchy you want it to be. So, with the closing of it, we're probably not going to do too much. So you could do as tall as you want. And then there'll be just a few rows of closing it together, since there is so much personality in the design itself. We don't have to do too much to close it up. So that's where we're at with that. So to start this, I always just put a slip knot on my hook, and then we are going to go into the stitch we ended with. So here's where the chains are, right here in the middle, and here's the stitch we ended with right here, and we're just going to go in there and get our color going. We're going to slip stitch that on there, and then you can always crochet these ends in as you're going, because these first couple rows are real easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2, and we're going to work right back into that stitch that we're starting with, that we slip stitched into. And for this first row, we're going to half double crochet all the way around in every stitch. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to go in, you're going to pull up a loop, and you're going to pull through all the loops. That's your half double crochet. And we're going to do that in every stitch. So move to the next, pull through all 3. So like with a double crochet, you pull through 2 and then the rest. With half doubles, you're just finishing the whole thing. So you're yarning over, you go into that next stitch, pull up a loop, and pull through all 3. So that's what we're going to do for this row. We're going to half double crochet all the way around. And then I'll meet you back for the second row of the repeat. This is the first row of the repeat. We'll meet back for the second row. Okay, once you finish your half double crochets, I'm sorry if the camera keeps changing. I'm trying to put it in a position where I think you guys can see it best. So I'm trying new things out in this video. So I apologize if you're like, why does she keep moving? Well, because I'm trying to do the best job I can for you guys. So that's row 1 of the repeat, is 1 row of half double crochet. Now it's gonna seem like, wow, why is she doing so many rows? But for it to work, because I played with this a little bit before I settled on it, before it to work we have to have extra rows so that it does work together. So you're gonna slip stitch into the top of that first half double crochet, and then we are going to chain 2 again. And now this row is a little different. We're gonna half double crochet again, but we're gonna half double crochet in this 3rd loop back here. And I don't know if everybody knows about the 3rd loop, but it runs along the back of the half double crochet. So back here, you're gonna yarn over and see this back here. This loop back here is where we're gonna work. We're gonna pull up a loop and we're gonna finish that half double crochet. And then we're gonna do it again. We're gonna go jump over here to the next one, right here, and we're gonna pull up a loop and finish our half double crochet. And once you get going, it gets a little easier because they start to pop up for you a little bit. So it's still half double crochets, but we're creating this pretty, if you can see it, it's just a pretty thing, a pretty line. It looks like a knitted line. So see it here, you can see it at the bottom here too. This is where we're starting, and then it continues up with the pattern as you go along, and it just adds that little zhuzh. So we're just gonna follow along and do this half double crochet in that 3rd loop all the way around. Okay, so that's row 2 of the repeat. So go ahead and do that. Remember, you're turning it over and doing it in this back loop here, this 3rd loop. Okay, and we'll meet back and go to row 3. Okay, when you come back up around, you're gonna think you want to do this last little bit here, but that is where you slip stitched over here. This is not where you want to leave that. So then we're gonna slip stitch in the top of that first half double crochet. There you go. And now that was row 2. So you got row 1 and row 2, which is just a half double crochet and then half double crochet in the 3rd loop. And see how pretty that looks? I just love that look. That is one of my favorites. So now for row 3, you're just going to chain 1. And we are going to single crochet, but we're going to do it in the back loops. We're going to, okay, so you have these top V's of your stitches. This is the front loop right here. And then this is your back loop right here in the back of that V. And you're just going to single crochet into it. So back here, you're going to single crochet. And I know you're thinking, Lynn, why all these pointless rows? But I'm telling you, it works out so pretty. And I'm going to show you real quick. This, because you're doing the back loop, these pop out in between the V's that we're going to make in the next, the X's we're going to make in the next row. And it just looks so cute. Because we could have just done a row of single crochet plain, but I just like the way that looks. So that's what we're going to do. This is row 3. We're going to single crochet in that back loop all the way around. So see, row 1 through 3 is pretty easy. it's not the hardest thing to remember. It's just a lot of changes. And remember, for row 1 and 2, you're going to chain 2. But row 3, you're just going to chain 1 because it's a single crochet row. So you don't want too much of a builder or else it'll pull on it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to single crochet, back loop only, all the way around. And I'll meet back and we'll do row 4, and then I'll let you guys go do your thing. Okay, and then when you come back around, remember, don't mistake this for a stitch, because that's our fake stitch from where we slip stitch. So just do your last. You can always tell where your this is your last stitch here, and this is attached to it. So that's your last stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch into the top of that single crochet. Boom, we've got this done. So now we're still gonna, now this one we're gonna go back to chaining 2. This is where it gets a little fun here. So not this row of single crochet, but under the half double crochet row, the second one, where we worked into that third loop, that's where we're gonna work in that third loop again. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna skip the first one first. And we're going to work into this second one here. So you're going to yarn over, and we're going to do a double crochet into that third loop here. So we're going to insert our hook into that and pull up a loop, and we're going to finish the double crochet. So now we've got our first stretch double crochet. Now we're going to cross back into the first one, the one we skipped. We're going to cross back. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to go down here into this third loop from that previous row. And we're going to go in, pull up a loop. Make sure you pull it up pretty good so that it's not pulling on the other stuff. And there's your first X. And that's what we're going to create now. So now, again, don't skip over what you already worked in and skip this first one and go into the second one. Yarn over and go in down here into the, just remember you're working into that third loop again, where you put those half double crochets into the third loop. So you're going to skip the first one and go into the second one, pull up a loop, pull it up pretty good, and finish your double crochet. And then you're going to double back and go into that one you skipped and finish your double crochet. And then you'll get these X's, and see there's your front loop poking out in between, since we worked in the back loops. So this is going to be, and aren't these colors just screaming spring to you? Like, I'm excited. Like, I'm making this hat with you guys, so I haven't seen it worked up yet either, but it's going to be real pretty. So let me show you this again. So we're going to skip this first one here, and we're going to yarn over and go into that second one in that third loop below, pull up a good loop, and finish that double crochet. Then we're going to double back to the one we just skipped, and we're going to put that double crochet in there to make our X. And there we go. And that's row 4. So row 1, half double crochet around. Row 2, half double crochet in the third loop around. Row 3, single crochet in the back loop only. And then row 4 is this crossover. So you're working in that third loop where you worked those half double crochets, and you can see it. So you're not working in the single crochet row. You're working in this half double crochet from row 2. You're working back into that third loop again. So, and you're skipping one and crossing back so that we get the X. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to repeat row 1 through 4, until we get it to whatever length we want. Now, I'm going to make mine a little slouchy. And what I think I might do, which I was trying to say before and it didn't come all the way out, is when I get to, because I think I'm going to do mine about 9 inches long. When I get to about 7.5, I'm going to switch my hook to 5.5 since I'm using 6. And it'll just bring it in a little bit at the top. It's not like a huge difference, but it brings it in just a tad so that it gives this cute shape. Especially when it's a slouchy, it just gives it a real cute shape, and then we'll close it off. So you could even do that with like a shorter beanie. I wouldn't do it on the like a regular short like tight beanie, because you're gonna bring it in too much and it won't fit the top of the head right. But if you're doing it between 7.5 to 9, 10 inches. I would do it about 1.5 inches below what you're going to do and change your hook so that it just brings it in nice. It'll look real cute. So that's an option. You don't have to do it. That's totally up to you. And so get it to the height you want it to be, and then we'll close up together and finish up the hat. Okay, once you get the height that you want, and unfortunately I didn't get where I wanted to because, like I said, these skeins that I was using were partially used. I'm trying to get through some of these skeins I have laying around, but I did manage to get it to about 8 inches. So it's not too bad. So around 6 inches, I switched my hook down to a 5.5. And it didn't bring it in a whole lot because it was just this top part. But it left it from being, you know, you'd see it more on a taller hat where it comes. You can see it a little bit up here where it comes in a little bit. See how it starts to bring it in a little bit. It doesn't do a whole lot. It just adds a little more personality. And I don't know about you guys, but I am loving this. This is pretty. I have a couple other patterns that I've tested out that I got some hats we can make together with that. I've even got a couple that I would like to make scarves with. But other than my hats, the videos don't do so good. So I'm in the middle on whether I'm going to do anything else for right now until I get more subscribers and everybody wants to try different stuff, because I've got some amigurumi that I'd like to try out too. So we'll just start here with hats and we'll go from there. So now that you've got your height that you want it to be, we're going to start decreasing. Now, like I said, we're going to do a real easy decrease. We're just going to, one of the rows, we're going to add in one of these so that it kind of goes together. So first we're going to chain 2, and then we're just going to do half double crochets still. We're going to leave it with the half doubles. So for this first row, we're going to go in and we're going to do 1 half double crochet in this first stitch, the same one you slip stitched in, and then we're gonna bring the next 2 together. And this is the way I do half double crochets. I go in the first one, I yarn over and go in, I pull through, nope, I'm wrong, that's double crochet. I go in and pull up a loop after yarning over, and then in the second one I don't yarn over, I just go in and pull up a loop so that there's 4 loops, and then pull through all 4. So then in the next one, we're just going to do 1 half double crochet, and then the next 2 we'll pull together. So we'll yarn over, go in there, pull up a loop. Without yarning over, go into the next one, pull up a loop. You have 4, and you pull through all 4. Okay, so the repeat is 1 by itself, 1 half double by itself, and then yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, and then just go in and pull up a loop and pull through all 4. Okay, so 1 by itself, and then pull 2 together. Okay, and then we'll meet back. Okay, and then when you come back around, it should end perfectly on this one. I tried to do the multiples so that it would end perfectly, but we're going to slip stitch in that first half double. And then for this row, we're going to chain 2. We're not going to decrease on this row. We're going to work in that 3rd loop again. So we're just going to half double around the whole thing. And I should have said this before, but the first one's kind of hard to find, but if you're looking, here's your first one, and it's always going to be off to the right a little bit. So this first one is, here's the stitch, and when you flip it, it's off to the right a little bit, right behind where you slip stitched. So you want to make sure you get that first one, or you're going to throw your stitch count off. So we're just going to do one in each of the 3rd loops all the way around, so that we get that pretty little ribbing around, like down here. So we'll have one more row towards the top. So just 1 half double in the 3rd loop all the way around. Then we'll meet back and do either, we're going to do 1 or 2 more. It just depends on personal preference at that point, but I'll explain that. Let's do this and we'll meet back. Okay, when you come back around, we're just going to slip stitch into the top of that half double. And now what we're going to do, instead of doing half doubles, we're going to just do singles, and we're going to single crochet 2 together all the way around. So chain 1, and then I like doing it as an invisible. So I just go in the front loop of the first one, and then you come back and you go through the front loop of the next one, and then pull through and do your single crochet. So again, remember, this is the back loop back here. Back here's the back loop. This is the front loop. So I go in the first one, don't yarn over or anything, and then go into the next one and pull through to do, and it makes an invisible, they call it the invisible decrease. So in the first one, then bring it around to the second one, pull it through and do it. Now if you don't want to do it that way, you don't have to. You can just do a regular single crochet decrease. It's totally up to you. So I want you to do that all the way around, just in every stitch. Bring it together. And then the reason I said maybe 1 or 2 is after you get done with this row, if the hole isn't small enough, which for me it never is, because I like to bring it in pretty close. I think it looks better when you have less to cinch, depending on what kind of hat you're making. On these kind, I tend to like to bring it in pretty small. So if you go around this row and it seems like the hole is small enough for your preference, then go ahead and be done. If it's not, if you're like me and you like to bring it in pretty small, then go around one more time, you know, decreasing in every stitch. And then we'll meet back up with whatever one you want. We'll cinch it up together and we'll pretty much be done. So let me get this done and I'll meet you back. Okay, once you get it to wherever you want it, see, like I bring it down pretty small. But if after that last one was good enough for you, then that's fine. It's totally fine, because we're just going to cinch it up. But I'm going to show you this little trick I like doing. So like we did at the band, but this time it's a little different. So you're going to pull up your loop there. And then not in the stitch it's coming from, but the very next stitch here, we're going to come in from behind and come out this way so we can grab the loop and pull that, as you know, a little tight so that you can grab it. and we're going to pull it to the inside. And then, you know, I chain 1, and then pull your string so that you can cinch it. Now, when you cinch it, like, I don't know how you guys, if you guys all have your own techniques, that's fine. I just like sharing. But if I'm going to add a pom-pom, like a handmade pom-pom from yarn, I cinch it up and then I leave this string hanging. Because then when I bring the string from the pom-pom in, I tie these together and then hide the tails, because I just think it makes it feel a little bit more secure. But anyways, if you're going to add a pom-pom and you don't care, you can cinch it this way. But I always, whether I'm adding a pom-pom or not, I make it inside out. I just think it looks better with the cinch. So either leave it right side out or turn it inside out. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to show you real quick how I cinch it up. So thread up your needle, and then let's see if I can show you this. It's always kind of turned when you go inside out, but you have your stitches here. And I'm going to start where we came out of, and you're going to go in this stitch and come out the next one and pull that. And then don't go back in where you came out, because then it just gonna pull it back out. Jump to this next stitch here, right here. And then you're gonna go in and come out the next one. So essentially, you're going around that post there. And then pull that through. And then I just repeat that around. Jump to the next, and go in and come out the next around that post. And you just do that until you come around to the beginning. And when you get back to the beginning, I just like to go in this last one where that knot is. I go in and come around that last one. And then just pull it tight. And you've got a nice little cinch. And then I go back and forth a couple times here over it. So I'll go across this way and pull it nice and tight, and then I go across the opposite way to make sure it's nice and stable and it's not gonna pull back out. Pull that through, and then I just go this way one more time. But if I can get it through, we'd be doing great. I go through it the opposite way one more time, but I leave a little loop before I pull it real tight, and I go through this loop with the needle and pull that tight. So it makes like a little tiny knot there. And then just sew in your ends. Now, if you want to add a pom-pom to yours, it's totally optional. It is your hat, and like I always say, I want you to be happy with your hat. I want you to love it as much as I love it. I am totally in love with this pattern, though. I'll tell you what, and if I make another one, I may do it with more than one color on the top to see how that turns out. Speaking of which, I would love for you guys to join my Facebook group. It's Curiosity Crochet, just like my YouTube channel, because I would love for you guys to share your hats with me. I'd like to see how your guys has turned out on any of the hats, and what your opinion is, and if you love yours as much as I do. I'd like to see if you guys made wider brims, if you did the same as me, if you added more colors in here. I mean, I'm just interested. I would love to see that you guys are working alongside of me. I hope this video wasn't too fast or slow. I hope you guys were able to do it with me. I really appreciate you guys. I really do. I enjoy doing this. And if I didn't have anybody watching, I wouldn't continue to do it. But it seems like some people do enjoy it. And I'm hoping that you guys are able to follow along. I hope that I'm starting to get better as I go along. And my angles are doing pretty good. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you real soon, because I have one more I have one more to do. Like, I think I'm going to do today. So you might have 2 videos coming at you. So I will see you in the next video. You guys have a great day.